गुरु ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्मा तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः अखण्डमण्डलाकारम् व्याप्तं येन चराचरम् तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः सदाशिवसमारम्भात् शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्. Pranams and welcome to all the Atma Jyotis, divine light of the self. So, and let's offer our pranams to Sadguru Sri Prabhuji, with whose guidance and inspiration we have started this study circle called the Madalasa Vedanta Study Circle. So, what is quickly let's understand what is Vedanta and what is a study circle, how does it work, and what are the objectives of this study circle. So, Vedanta, as we all know, is the most ancient of the scriptures of Indian spiritual knowledge known to mankind. Vedanta literally means the end of knowledge. Veda is knowledge and Anta is the end. So, Vedanta is the end of knowledge, meaning which knowing which none of the other knowledge is necessary. That's the meaning of Vedanta. So, Vedanta is the wisdom which is contained in the Upanishads. Upanishads, and also it is called the Prasthanatraya, which is Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, and the Brahma Sutras. The knowledge contained in all these scriptures is known as Vedanta, isn't it? So, it is said that Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. The knowledge contained in the scriptures in the Upanishads is called as Vedanta. So, Vedanta especially is pertaining to Advaita Vedanta. There are lots of other systems of schools of knowledge, Advaita, Vishishtadvaita, Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, and all that. Vedanta especially belongs to Uttara Mimamsa, and it's about Advaita Vedanta, which talks about the oneness of existence, the oneness of existence, and the divinity of the oneness and divinity of all of existence. It just tells us that all is one, and there is only one syllabus in all of the Vedanta texts. There is just one syllabus. The syllabus is to realize that Tattvamasi, I am that, you are that, thou art that, and or I am Brahman. That is the only objective, and the teaching is only one in any of the Vedanta texts that we can take. So now there are several Vedanta texts. With starting level we have Tattva Bodha, and going up all the way up to the Brahma Sutras with the prominent Upanishads in between. We have 10 prominent Upanishads. So let us start by taking this. Prabhuji has asked us to go with this basic text called the Tattva Bodha, written by Adi Shankaracharya. So how do we go about this is this study circle. Basically we take up this text, and like we are all aware now, we all take up a little portion of each of the talks that Prabhuji has given, and we are going to share our own knowledge of the same. What else do we have to know? So how do we do this? So the objective is of course to realize that our existence and the existence of the universe is the ground of our existence is one and the same, isn't it? The next question is, why do we have to do this? Where is the need for us to do this? Why? Because we can say very confidently or unequivocally that all of existence is looking for happiness. There is one thing common between even the smallest creature like the single-celled amoeba and the most complex being like the human being. All of us without exception, are looking for happiness. In the sense, even a plant, its shoots grow towards the sunlight and roots go towards the water, which means it is seeking its kind of happiness, which is it wants to grow. The human being is a more complex creature. Yes, though we need sunlight and and water, we need much more than that. We look for happiness, but we look for an eternal kind of happiness. That's the goal of a human being's life. Most often than not, we don't know how to go about it. We don't know. We know that we are looking for happiness, but we look for it in things which don't give us happiness. That's the problem with the human life. And Vedanta tells us that the goal of human life is to find that happiness, find that eternal happiness, and fulfill our mission, and we realize our oneness with God. Realize that we are none other than Sat Chit Ananda, or existence, consciousness, bliss. So all this we become very clear when we look at the test in a very focused and structured manner. We are going to arrive at that conclusion, hopefully. And Tattva Bodha, especially, is this text which is written by Adi Shankaracharya. Very, very simple. Tattva means the essence, and Bodha means the knowledge. So, Tattva Bodha goes straight to the point. It gives us the essential knowledge of our own existence. Now, the problem with our approach, or a normal human approach to existence, is we look at existence in a we have got a trichotomous view of existence, which is we think that there is me, there is the jiva, and there is the world, which is Jagat, and there is the God who created the whole of it, which is called Ishvara. So, Jiva, Jagat, and Ishvara are the 3 points of reference normal human being has. And the problem is we feel that all these three are different. I am different from the world. I me, this body and mind and the intellect, is this imperfect being is different from the world which I see, also imperfect. And this me and the world are somehow created by another entity called Ishvara. Ishvara is not imperfect. Ishvara is the perfect entity which has all the best qualities, which I would love for to be in me and the world as well. So Jiva Jagat Ishvara. Now Tattva Bodha tells us that the basic essence of all these three entities is nothing but one and the same, which is Brahman. So, this is the goal of studying the Tattva Bodha. So, let's do that. So, the first introductory talks of Prabhuji, this is what Prabhuji says, that the goal of Tattva Bodha is to discover that the essence of all of creation, of me, the world, and the Creator, is nothing else but Brahman, or the Satchidananda, the vast, infinite existence, consciousness, bliss. So let's discover this, unfold this knowledge stage by stage, and I would ask RTG to take over the next part of the session.
Thank you, Purnima ji. Yeah. To take Purnima ji's message further, when we say that everything is essential, everything is not different and is the same, Prabhuji gives us the example of a glass. He says anything for that matter. Take a vessel made of clay. Okay, you have different types of vessels. It could be a glass, it could be a plate, it could be a cooking vessel, it could be a kadai, it could be anything. They have different forms because they serve a different purpose. Each of these vessels has a different purpose in life. But the nature, when you see the essential nature of all these different types of vessels, is right, everything is made of clay. Right? In the same way, all of us, the basic nature in us is Brahman, or the consciousness, or we have a different body. We have all taken different forms for different purposes, and we ourselves don different roles to serve different purposes. But the essential nature of all of us is Brahman or Atma. So, or God. So the moment you associate another person as saying this is a form, but inside him is God, inside him is consciousness, the same that is inside you, then everything becomes the same. We are not separate from the world. We are not different from another person. It's just the form that is different. The body each one has taken is different, but the underlying, the essence is Atma or Brahman or consciousness, or in other words, God. So in all living creatures, we look for that Brahman, that consciousness which drives us. So once we seek that, then that becomes the route for happiness. So instead of seeking happiness, as Purnima ji said, externally, we have to look internally. We have to look inside us for the happiness. Once we discover that, we have attained our goal of life. That becomes the essential nature.
All right. Thank you, Aarti. Thank you so much. So, what we'll do next is we will ask Chandra ji to um, take over the conversation from here. Chandra, will you please on your video, Chandra? Yeah, thanks.
Voice is muted, I think.
No?
I can't hear.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
According to Prabhuji, the video which was allotted to me, he says essential nature of everything is God and Brahman. So everywhere, when we find for the essential nature, it is God and Brahman which is present in everything and everywhere. So he says we should always penetrate the wisdom through always through the essential nature, not the superficial. Superficial is once, as he says, once the body is dead or something, so it is going to be buried. Whereas that being it is not buried. It is always essential, he says. So we have to always concentrate and penetrate only through consciousness, that is Atma.
Okay.
Yes, ma.
Oh, fine. That was so
Thank
nice.
you, ma.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chandra. So next, shall we take Nisha? Nisha ji?
Unmute yourself.
The part that was allotted to me is a continuation of talking and understanding about the essential nature, which is Atman or Brahman. And the example given is in our everyday life, or as a child, when you're born and when you're growing, you say, I was a child, I am growing, I studied. So everywhere, the I is universal, the I am. I, which is consciousness, and amness is the existence. So I am studying, I am dancing, I am singing. The I am is constantly there. Whereas the other part, which is referred to the body and mind, keeps changing. So why, in spite of knowing that the essential nature in everybody and the world is the same, which is Atman or Brahman, why are we not able to get it, and why are we unhappy? Because what we are seeking is happiness, but on the other hand, knowing that we are consciousness, Brahman, God, we are still not able to experience that happiness, that bliss. This is because we mix up the role that we play with the I am, which is constant. So the role that we play is through the body and mind. which is not constant. We mix up the constant with the which is not constant, and that's why there is a unhappiness that we experience. That is the basic,
Yeah.
the essence of the chapter, I mean, the verses that has been allotted to me.
Yes.
Of course, couple of examples given, where you're sitting in the train and, there's a train next to you which is moving and you feel that your train is moving.
Mm.
So that's a clear example that Atman appears to be born, growing, and dead, but it does not. It is eternal, constant, and unchanging.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you. All right. So Satyavati, you want to take over?
Yeah, just 2
Yeah, sure.
Can somebody at the door? I'll just attend that and come back.
Not a problem. So, like Nishaji was saying, we mix up the role that we play. We mix the changing with the unchanging. So every time we say I, we are actually referring to the unchanging I, whereas we by habitually and because of ignorance we associated that unchanging I with this changing personality that we think we are. Yeah, that was the essence of Nishaji's talk.
Yeah, can I
Yeah.
take over?
Yes, please carry on.
Yeah, Hari Om.
Hari Om.
So this particular video talk on which I have to speak is why to study this Tattva Bodha scripture. So as already mentioned, Tattva Bodha meaning Tattva essence and Bodha is knowledge. So why do we have to know this or get this knowledge? So here Guruji talks about the I principle. There is a personal I and the unchanging I. Everybody in the society addresses us as this personal I only, as the body, and we always focus on the human part, and we always tend to forget the being part. Being part is the essence,
Yeah.
which is our essential nature. Nobody will remind us about this being part. And Guruji gives an example like a plant grows into a tree, and instead of watering the tree, if we water the flowers, same way, we as human beings, if we focus only on the human part, the being part is forgotten. What happens? We get into stress and we look forward for happiness and peace in the worldly objects. And this nobody will remind us, as Guruji says, but through Vedanta and through a Guru, we can get this knowledge and to recognize our being part. This being part is nothing but consciousness, Atman, Brahman, God, which is infinite bliss. So this is the basic, like I guess in almost all the talks, the essence or the essential aspect is being told through different examples in from different perspectives to help us understand, recognize our essential nature. What happens when I consider myself as a body? So I feel limited to myself, then I want to expand, and to do that I get into desires, and to fulfill the desires I do a lot of things, but all that will be temporary. There is no permanent peace in that. Same way, when I consider myself as a body, I mean as a mind also, I feel limited, I want to expand, and whatever happiness I get through objects, I feel that is the permanent happiness, but that
is not so. So the Vedantic teachings, especially through this Tattva Bodha scripture, it is clearly mentioned, or through a guru's teachings, we can understand that the permanent eternal happiness is within me, and we can recognize that which is infinite happiness. And so here the I principle, or I am, the existence and consciousness is always there, only the Ananda is missing. Ananda is nothing but Ananta, infinite. This can be obtained through the recognition of my real essential nature.
Okay.
This is in book.
Yes.
Why Tattva?
Yeah. Thank you, Satyavati. Thank you so much. So we shall ask Krishna Shri to take over.
Yes. Namaste. I invoke the blessings of the Supreme Lord and our Guruji for the successful spiritual journey for all of us. Now, I am going to deal with the invocation prayer. As we all know, we have seen, we have just started understanding the reality. So, Tattva Bodha means understanding the reality. Why do we have to understand the reality? Because it is the reality alone that can give us happiness and peace in the long term. In the short term, we might find happiness with unreality, but it fails in the long term. Another reason why we need to study Tattva Bodha is that it gives a foundation for us to understand the rest of the Vedantic texts. So, okay, now let us start with the prayer, invocation prayer. Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnana Pradam Gurum Mumukshunam Hitadhaya Tattva Bodho Abhidhiyate. Let us try to understand the meaning of this sloka. Natva means praying. Shankaracharya is praying. Whom is he praying to? Vasudevendra Yogindram, the great yogi Vasudeva. And he is calling Vasudeva as Jnana-pradam Gurum, the Guru who has given him Jnana, that is Atma Jnana. So, in a simple way, this sentence, this first line means that Shankaracharya is praying Vasudeva who has given him knowledge. But the confusion starts here because Shankaracharya's Guru is Govindapada. Why is he calling Vasudeva as his Guru in this shloka? Let us see, there is a very, very subtle reason behind this. Let us see the two words, Govinda and Vasudeva. Vasudeva, as we all know, Vasudeva Sutam. He is the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, not Sri Krishna. Vasudeva also means the one who resides in the heart of everybody. That is, Vasati iti Vasudeva. Paramatma residing in the heart of everybody as Atma. Okay, we need to remember the keywords here, Paramatma, Atma. Okay, now let us go to the second word, that is Govinda. That is the name of his actual Guru, Govindapada. Here again, Govinda means Go is Vedas. Vinda means understanding or knowing. So the one who is known through Vedas is Govinda. Again, Lord Krishna. The link here is Shankaracharya is trying to help us. He is writing this text to help us understand Upanishads. That is the Jnana portion of Vedas. Who is known through Vedas? Sri Krishna. So instead of using the word Govinda, he is using another name for Sri Krishna, that is Vasudeva. So he is interchanging the two words. So he is interchanging his Guru's name with Vasudeva. So the connection here is that he is trying to convey a subtle message that Guru, Paramatma and Atma all are one and the same. Ishvaro Guru Ratmeti. That is what he is trying to convey. Now the question comes, why do we need a Guru? Why we know that, okay, fine, I can understand Paramatma is there everywhere and he is in my heart also, he is in everybody's heart as Atma. So why do you need a Guru for that? That is because all of us have some kind of conditioning already done to our minds. something like having a colored sheet in front of us and walking around. What you see and perceive to yourself is completely different from what the reality is. And you don't even know the fact that you have a colored screen, you have a conditioning, and you don't obviously know how to remove that. So only a guru can, and he is the only one who can remove the conditioning to our minds. That is the reason why we always have to go through a guru for spiritual journey. Okay, then coming to the second line of the prayer, why is he praying? Because of hitardhaya, that is, hita means for the benefit of whom? Mumukshu. Mumukshu means a person who is seeking moksha. Indirectly, a person who is seeking jnana, atma jnana, because atma jnana gives us moksha, liberation or freedom. Okay, so why do we say that atma jnana gives liberation? Because it removes the suffering, mental suffering and mental struggles and the stress in our mind, maybe because of the fact that we mix the changing I and unchanging I. So all that is removed, and our mind becomes calm, and we can experience the real bliss, happiness and peace. Okay, that is the shloka is all about. Let us summarize the meaning of the shloka. Shankaracharya is praying to God, Paramatma, saying, I am writing this text for the benefit of all the seekers of Atma Jnana or Moksha. Please help me in completing this text successfully. Not only that, please help all the seekers to successfully study this text and get benefited. So that is the overall meaning. So such should be, and even after so many centuries we are using the same text as the fundamental text for us. So such should be our work. Whatever we do, it should be long lasting and it should be useful for the humanity. That's all is assigned to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna Shri. That was really very nice, very well put, and it was quite clear to all of us. Thank you so much. Now, Sita ji, Sita.
Yeah, on the text which was shared, we're going to discuss. Guruji answers us few questions like for whom is this text Tattva Bodha for? What is a qualification one must have to understand this book or the text, and what is the benefit we get out of it? What is the process involved? What is the methodology? And how do we find moksha? So he explains one by one for our understanding. And the first question is, for whom is this text? This text is basically for the seekers of moksha. And the qualification required is sadhana chatushtaha sampanna adhikarena. So this Guruji says it is fourfold qualification, though probably I need to understand this line more. So hopefully in the coming series he would have explained it. So it is for the people who have the inner wealth, and it is for the purpose is for moksha sadhana. So for whoever is seeking liberation or who wants to realize the truth. And what is the process involved? So the process involved is tattva viveka. Viveka means discrimination, the right discrimination. So usually when we think of achievements in life, there are two types. One is when we do something and when we achieve something. So this involves an effort from us. It involves an effort from us, and which gives us a result. This is one type. And the second type is we already have it and we need to recognize it. So moksha comes under this category. So where it is we already have it, we need to recognize it. So there in this two categories of achievements, there is a differentiate between them. In the first type, where we do something and we achieve, there is a tendency that we might lose it, and there is also a time bound. But in the second type, where moksha, that is a recognition
discrimination is required. So here we don't have to have the fear of losing it because it's already within us and there's no time now. Recognizing or proper discrimination can happen anytime depending on how sharpened one's intellect is. So next, Guruji tells us how do we find moksha? So this is through application of our intellect. So we can recognize our true self or we can recognize our essential nature of anything. So usually when it comes to discrimination, we are all very good in discriminating the worldly things. We can pick up the best of the objective stuff. It could be luxury or clothing or anything. But when we are discriminating the right thought, somewhere we fail. We don't pick the right thought that uplifts us. So here Vedanta comes into picture. It helps us, it teaches us how to discriminate our right thoughts that uplift us and liberate us. So Vedanta teaches us how to sharpen our will. So that we are able to discriminate the right kind of thoughts ourselves, and it gives us the correct tools to correct our thoughts. This is a summary of the text which has been read.
Hari Om. Thank you, Sita. Thank you. So what we'll do now is, I think all of us have spoken about everything now. Just to quickly recap, let's do that. To quickly recap what was being said. Just a minute. So what RTG, what she was telling us was how the essential nature of everything has to be known. That is the main purpose of Tattva Bodha, right? So like how the chair I'm sitting on for now, for example, is made of plastic, and now I'm fine. So the chair I'm sitting on, for example, is plastic, and what I have in my hand, there's a pen which is made of plastic, and I have an iPad in my hand which also has a cover which is made of plastic. So they all have different names and shapes and forms and uses. So karya is different, the name is different, the form is different, but we have the discrimination about worldly objects. We can immediately see that it is everything is the basic essence of all these three things are plastic. So that is how we need to recognize the essential nature in all of existence. So that was what RTG's point was, that we are not separate from the world, and we have to look for, if we look at the world in as different from us, we can't find the happiness. But when we recognize the underlying essence of all of us is the same, then we can find that eternal happiness which is right now eluding us. And Chandra ji made the point that the essential nature is actually nothing else but Brahman, and which is everywhere, and it is everything, and it is everywhere. So recognizing, discriminating between the essential and the superficial is the goal of the human existence, and that is what Vedanta teaches us to do, to recognize the superficial and to discriminate between the superficial and the essential. And then Nisha ji made a point that the I am feeling is universal, and the I, which we always talk about, never changes, but we fail to recognize it because of our ignorance or avidya. And Vedanta tells us how to keep going back to that unchanging I and not associate ourselves with the changing body, mind, and intellect. So this mixing up of the role play between the superficial and the essential is what gets us into trouble. And Satyavati ji also stressed this point. The most important thing that came out from Satyavati's point was that we keep nourishing the superficial, Like we keep watering the flowers. When we do that, the plant, the roots which require the water, they don't get the water, so the plant dies, which is what we are doing right now. We are giving too much attention to the superficial, which is the body, mind, and intellect, and we are not going back to the essential, our essential nature. We are watering the flowers and killing the plant itself. So we are wasting our human existence by stressing the human part and forgetting about the being part, right? So that is why the Ananda is missing in us. And Krishna Shri Madam told us about the first invocation by Adi Shankara in this Tattva Bodha. Very beautifully, Adi Shankara plays with the words Vasudeva and Govinda and gives us a beautiful insight into actually the beauty of the Sanskrit language also, right? So Vasudeva is the one who uh, um, Vasati iti Vasudeva, the one who resides in everybody's hearts and beings and minds, is nothing else but Vasudeva, which is Brahman itself. So Shankara pays his salutations to Vasudeva, and also Govinda, which is his guru. Govinda is the knower of the Vedas. Go is also knowledge, and Vinda is the one who knows knowledge. So we have to, that is the basis, that is the starting point, which we think is the ending point, is actually the starting point of Vedanta. We have, it's very clear, Shankaracharya makes it very clear that the Guru and the Atma are one and the same. So, Ishvaro Guru Atmeti, and that is where we start realizing that everything and everybody is Brahman, and we have to finally come to the point that I am also Brahman. And Sita ji told us about the process and the adhikari who is eligible for this knowledge. So we have been hearing a lot about the adhikari. These days Prabhuji is also talking about it in the Viveka Chudamani. The Viveka, Vairagya, Shamadhamadi, Shat Sampatti, and Mumukshutva. These are the eligibility criteria for one who is of a seeker. And in this particular today, Sitaji spoke about Viveka, the quality of discrimination, which is so important. While we exercise it very beautifully in our worldly affairs, we have to turn that same intellectual capability to sift. That is called the Hamsakshira Nyaya, right? So we have to sift the essential from the superficial and use our Viveka to zero in on the essential at all times. So this was a beautiful session, and you know what the meaning of Madalasa is? Madalasa, by the way, was an enlightened queen in the Puranas. It comes in the Markandeya Purana. The Madalasa's name is mentioned. She was an enlightened queen who had a lullaby for her newborns, and she would tell them, "You are." She would refuse to give names to her babies. She said, "Why? This is just a form. I don't want to give a name to a form." She would say, "You are a Nitya and you are a Mukta. You are a soul, innocent soul, who is always free, and you are not bound by this form that I can see in front of me." So that is Madalasa, an enlightened queen. And Mada is that arrogance, or Mada is also intoxication. Mada means intoxication, and Alasa means indifference. So why would, even the name of Saraswati is Madalasa, by the way. Goddess Saraswati is also called as Madalasa. Why would anybody call a goddess or a supreme being as Madalasa? Why would someone be indifferent and intoxicated? But it is so beautiful. So once you have the supreme knowledge, you are bound to be indifferent to the worldly things, right? It makes you indifferent to worldly things. You are indifferent to the superficial, and that's why that knowledge makes you arrogant. Kind of arrogant. The others might think of you as arrogant, but really that you stop caring about unessential things, which would look like arrogance to the world. So I love this name Madalasa. So that is how we have this Madalasa Atma Jyoti Vedanta Study Circle. So we had a great first session, right? And shall we go into meditation right away? And Or shall we just have a concluding prayer and then mute ourselves and then do the meditation and come back? But I can stop recording also. There won't be a need to record the meditation session, right? So can we just conclude with the prayer? Huh, Madhu? ಏನಮ್ಮ? ಹೌದೌದು, ನಾವೇ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇಷ್ಟ ಬಂದಿದ್ದ ಹೆಸರೆಲ್ಲ ಹಾಕೊಂಡ್ವಿ. ಯಾ ಮದಾಲಸ. ಸೊ ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಕ್ಲೋಸಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರೇಯರ್ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡೋಣ. ಚಂದ್ರ, ಯಾ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್. ಅಸತೋಮ ಸದ್ಗಮಯ ತಮಸೋಮ ಜ್ಯೋತಿರ್ಗಮಯ ಮೃತ್ಯೋರ್ಮಾ ಅಮೃತಂಗಮಯ. ಓಂ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ ಶಾಂತಿ. ಪೂರ್ಣಮದ ಪೂರ್ಣಮಿದಂ ಪೂರ್ಣಾತ್ ಪೂರ್ಣಮುದಚ್ಯತೆ ಪೂರ್ಣಸ್ಯ ಪೂರ್ಣಮಾದಾಯ ಪೂರ್ಣಮೇವಾವಶಿಷ್ಯತೆ. ನಾನೆಂಬುದು ನಾನಲ್ಲ, ಈ ದೇಹ ಮನಬುದ್ಧಿ ನಾನಲ್ಲ, ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾನಂದಾತ್ಮ ಶಿವ ನಾನು ನಾನೇ. ಶಿವೋಹಂ ಶಿವೋಹಂ ಶಿವೋಹಂ. ಲೋಕಾಃ ಸಮಸ್ತಾಃ ಸುಖಿನೋ ಭವಂತು. ಹರಿಃ ಓಂ ತತ್ಸತ್. ಕೃಷ್ಣಾರ್ಪಣಮಸ್ತು. Actually, we are supposed to have a Q&A session. Anybody has any questions? We need, I think it was quite clear. Does anyone want to say anything? No questions? Not really, no? Not now. Next session. Okay, one more thing. Should we do this fortnightly or can we do it weekly also? Is it too much of a stress to do it weekly? ಹೇಳಿ. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಕೃಷ್ಣ. Yes, I can. Yes. Fortnightly is better.
Even for me,
Weekly will be a different. Better fortnight? ವೀಕ್ಲಿನೂ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಆಯ್ತು. ಸೀತಾ, what do you say? All right, we'll discuss it through the week and see how it goes. Because fortnight ಅಂದ್ರೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಗ್ಯಾಪ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗುತ್ತಾ ಅಂತ. Okay. Okay. So ಸರಿ. ವಾಟ್ ಸತ್ಯವತಿ? ಹಾ ಹಾ ಹಾ. Okay, so what Satya is saying that we'll try fortnightly for a while and then switch to weekly. All right. Okay, all right.